Hi everybody, welcome back. In this next video, what I want to do is start with the very basics of Python. So we're gonna put in some string text, and then do some basic math calculations. And I should say I'm following this book here using Python for Introductory Econometrics. That's available at the name of the website, UPFIE, using Python for Introductory Econometrics.net. So you can look at the book there online, read it for free. You can buy it, hard copy on Amazon, but then primarily here, it's got all these downloads. The zip file has the downloads for all the Python scripts. There's some data there too that we'll use later. But here in chapter 1 are all these different Python scripts. The very first one is aptly named First Python Script. And so that's what we're going to be working through in this video today in both Sypder and Jupyter Notebook. And so the approach I'm going to take in a lot of these videos is to start with Excel and talk about what you can do in Excel and then how that transfers over into Python. At the beginning, Excel may seem to be a lot easier than what's happening in your Python and going through all your code. But as you'll soon find out, especially once we start getting toward more rigorous econometrics and statistics, Python quickly becomes a lot more powerful than Excel. So you'll see this is actually Python code here. Let me throw that to the side. We make comments with hashtags. A single quote or a double quote, it doesn't matter. We'll make text strings is the data type. And then we've got some math here as well. So I'll show you all of this. I'll use this in a different way, but that means a new line. And so here's what it would have been in Excel. One, we're just going to simply write out any text that we may have. To do our formulas, we use equal signs, asterisk for multiplication, and a little caret for exponents. And you'll see that's a little different. For exponents in Python, you use a double asterisk. Okay. The other option is you could use a function, which you could also do in Python, the square root function in the Excel's case. So what I'm going to do is show you first how we would do this in Sypder, and then Jupyter Notebook. So if you've already downloaded Anaconda from the last video, you'll see that Sypder is one of the options there. So you can go ahead and click that. That's going to open Sypder, and you're going to have something that looks like this. If you've ever used R, and particularly RStudio, this might look a little bit familiar. Here, here's your script. Here's the console where all the output is going to come, and this can be a number of different things, but the variable explorer is a nice common one to use, so you can keep track of all the variables you're using. And so, like we saw in the script online, what we're going to do is open a new script. We've already got one open here. And from the beginning, just go ahead and save it. And like I said last time, it's nice to save everything in the same place. I like to get mine close to the root. So we've got C:/, and then I'll do Python here, metrics lectures, and then I'm going to create a new folder called video tutorial code. Go in here. This is the first script in the first chapter, and I'm going to call that first Python script. .py makes it a Python file, but because we're doing it in Sypder, it's going to automatically do that. We can see it's a .py, a little tiny on the video there. Okay, so like we said, we can make comments. This is a comment, and then the next one says, in the next line we're going to enter some Shakespeare. So I'm just going to write Shakespeare. And what we can do this two ways. We can make the single quote or the double quote. And we've got to be or not to be. That is the question. I'm going to stop it there. And we could run the whole file. There's not much there now, but one thing I like to use a lot is this run selection or current line, and that's in Windows just the F9 function key. I'm going to go ahead and hit that, and we'll see our output there, to be or not to be. And that's our first code in Python. Another way you could do this is to take the same thing and put it inside a print function, and it'll be very similar, but you don't have this output there. It just outputs it directly. Then we can do some math, and so let's do 1 plus 2 times 5. Run it, we get 15, and 16 double asterisk means to the power, and we're going to do the power 1/2, so we're going to be taking the square root of 16 for 4. Okay, pretty simple. Now, let me show you how to do it in Jupyter Notebook. That's one, you can still use, you can type in Jupyter Notebook and use it there. That will open it up in any sort of given working directory. So what I like to do is run a command prompt like this, or you can do Windows key R and type in CMD. And so you see we're in the Windows and then System32. We want to get all the way back to the C. So we're going to CD to change directory, and then C:/, we're back at C. Now we already saw that I have inside my C folder, C drive, I have a Python folder. If I start typing in Python, py, I can tab over, and if there's something in there that starts with py, and it's something there, tabbing over is going to complete that. So we're going to type in Python. Oops, okay. I just opened up Python. That's actually okay. I'll just show you that you can actually code in Python here. So if you want to print to be or not to be, you can run that and it prints it just as is. 1 plus 1. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. But that's not actually what I wanted to do. So let's exit from that. I'm back to where I was. I want to again change the directory into my folder called Python. So that's the difference here. And again, I can tab over. It'll auto-complete. But yeah, do keep in mind you can always theoretically code into Python directly into the core of your computer. Okay, so I'm changing the directory to Python. All right, and now we've got C/Python, and I'm going to open up a Jupyter Notebook here, and note the spelling of Jupyter. You type enter, and that's going to open a Jupyter Notebook as an HTML document within your browser. So you see, here is the Jupyter Notebook. We got some folders here: branches, complete Python, metrics, lectures, right? And if we go into my Python folder in the computer, branches, complete Python, metric lectures, it's just the same thing. I'm going to actually delete this test. So you see I don't have anything in here called test. I could create a new folder here and call it test, but I could do exactly the same thing here. Make a folder. Here it is, untitled folder. Rename it. Call it test. So we check that. We've got test there. We've got test here. And inside test, we can make Python documents. We can add new folders, and we can go back to the front by clicking this little folder icon here. I'm going to be coding inside a subfolder metrics lectures and then a subfolder video tutorial code. You can see that I have this script here. That's what I created in Sypder. That's this script, 1.1 first Python script. That's in here. And so now let's create a new Python notebook. We're going to call this first Python. Let's do 1.1 first Python. And let's do it like this. 1.1 J for Jupyter. Although I won't be doing. Okay, let's do it like this. Jupyter. Since I won't be making a whole lot of Jupyter notebooks, I'll primarily be doing these lessons in Sypder. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and rename this. So we now have another Python file, but in this case, this first one we did in Sypder is a Python script, and that has that .py extension. That's a Python file directly. The first Python Jupyter, that's IPYNB, that's a Jupyter notebook file. But if you needed to, you could download that as a Python file. The nice thing about Jupyter Notebook is it's just a really nice user interface, and you can also, in addition to typing in code, you can also type in Markdown script. So instead of, you can still make comments with hashtags in code, but I could also make some Markdown here, and I could say at the beginning we want to do some strings, all right, and then from our string we're going to write in to be or not to be, and we get our output. And then we're going to do some math. So we want to do 1 plus 2 times 5. Right? And there are some nice hotkeys. So to run that, I just did Shift-Enter. That'll run your code. But we might have forgotten, I wanted to put some a header in there. You could do a comment and say math. But let's say we wanted to have some Markdown script up there. So we can go up here to the previous cell, and instead of doing Shift-Enter, we can do Alt-Enter. That'll give us a new cell in between. Change it to Markdown, and we'll do math. The other nice thing about Markdown script is there's a little bit of formatting available. So you can turn these into headers by using hashtags. So that'll make it big, strings, and math, and also subheaders. So let's say we want to do strings, and then we want to write our string. The more hashtags you use, the smaller your header is going to be. But our first subheader is going to be Shakespeare. Control Shift Enter to run it, and there we go. Okay, so there's our math, there's our string, and that's how you run it in Jupyter Notebook. The next two scripts in the book are both more math, and so you've got Python as a calculator is the second script there. And so we're just running, 1 plus 1. We're doing order of operations, so it's 5 times 4 minus 1, which is 3 squared. So we're going to do 5 times 3 squared. This one I'm not going to really show you, but I will just really briefly show you the third script, which is called module math. Okay, and so here we have another important beginning to Python, which is using modules. So the math one is easy enough to import. You can always import a module as some alias, and by saying some alias, I literally mean it could be any alias. So you could import math as something called, MT, math as MT. And instead of putting some alias here, you do MT dot square root. This is maybe more important for modules that have larger names. But inside of these modules, you have a whole bunch of different types of functions. And so I'm going to actually go back to Sypder and run this one with you guys. So I always like to import modules at the top of a document. So we're going to import math as, and let's just call this MT. Just so that you get a little difference from the book. Okay, and then down here, we'll use a math module. This comes from script 1.3. Okay, and what we have here is, one, we could take a square root. So another thing we're going to do here is define a new variable. So we're going to call a new variable result1 is just going to be equal to MT dot, and then it's a little small here, but you've got all sorts of functions within math that you can use. So you've got square root, cosine, sine, log, all these ceiling, floor, and so you can call some of these formulas. We're going to call the square root formula, or sorry, function, and we were going to look at the square root of 16. Okay, we run it, and now, unlike up here, we don't actually see the output because we stored that result inside a variable called result1. So if we want to see what the square root of 16 is, we need to either type in result1, and we can just run that. That'll give us our square root of 16 as 4. Another option, we could use a print formula, or sorry, print function, and we can type in whatever we want to see here. So we want to see what result1 is. And to see that, we put it in some curly brackets, our variable called result1. And just checking to make sure everything's looking good there. It looks like it is. We run that, and so we have the result1 is equal to 4. So if you want to get a little bit fancy with things, you can do it like that. We also use the math module to see what pi is. So if we want to just say mt.pi and run that, we'll get 3.14159266535, all that. We could store that inside a variable if we wanted to. And then similarly, we can see what E is, Euler's number. Oops. And just run that. We get Euler's number. So to get pi and Euler's number in Excel, the special math, we just use the function. So we use pi. We get pi, and we use exp, which is the e raised to the power of something. And if we want to see e by itself, we raise it to the power of 1. And we get Euler's number. So there's pi. There's Euler's number. And that's how we do basic math in Python. So again, a lot of this is just as easy to do in Excel. But as we keep moving along, a lot of these new concepts are going to be easier and easier to transition to Python. Okay, thanks for following along, and in the next video we're going to keep working through the first chapter in the Using Python for Introductory Econometrics textbook. We're going to start looking at different types of objects and lists and dictionaries and all that sort of thing. So stay tuned for those videos, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.